Welcome to the Benchwarmers podcast. It's NCAA tournament time, and we have our brackets ready.
Let the madness begin.
Yeah. Final Four in San Antonio, so I'm hoping that I'll actually be able to go.
$500 for the bleachers.
It's Casey Coggins here with Alvin Hebert, taking a sip of his beer.
Sorry. I was like, okay.
I was parched.
Moment of silence.
And Andrew Lera.
Hello.
Moment of silence for Craig Mick.
All right, there's enough flavor in here. We're going to just go over the tournament. We all made our brackets, give y'all our Final Fours, who we have winning it all, a Cinderella, and a lesser-known player that you should keep your eye out for. And then we'll go on to our On Fire, End Dire, and Prophecies, and that'll wrap up the week. Right now we have the play-in games going on. Two teams that are only going to play this one game, or the one team that's going to win this game is going to be their only win of the tournament, because the winner of this plays Villanova in the first round.
Xavier.
No, this is Long Island, Brooklyn versus Radford. The Xavier game or play-in teams, they play tomorrow night.
Oh, they play tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah. So right now it's LIU, Brooklyn, and Radford. Later on tonight it'll be St. Bonaventure versus UCLA, and the winner of that will play Florida, and then in a 6-11 matchup. So first off, let's talk Cinderellas, because that's what makes March Madness and the NCAA tournament the story of this time. Everybody loves to see the Bryce Drew hitting a 3 for Valparaiso on a last-second shot to beat a team. Somebody like R.J. Hunter a couple years ago hitting a game-winning 3 against Baylor. Teams like Florida Gulf Coast and
the Wichita State
Monmouth.
Wichita State.
Yeah. So people love to see the Cinderella advance. Alvin, who is your Cinderella? Who are you putting the glass slipper on this year?
Well, when we was talking about it, I actually have like 3 teams that are making it to the Sweet 16 that you could consider Cinderellas, but I think it's Murray State and Loyola, just because I think they're in the tougher brackets. And I don't know. And
then you had New Mexico State too, right?
SF Austin.
You have Stephen F. Austin beating Tech.
Yeah, and New Mexico State, but I feel like I never trust Kansas, so like I feel like that's not real tough. And with Villanova, I don't trust Villanova either, so like I don't think that's like real hard. But you got like Loyola going up against Cincinnati or Virginia, and Murray State is going up against Villanova, and again I don't trust them, but I think that's a tougher team than going up against Kansas, because I never trust Kansas anyways.
Yeah, Kansas has shown the potential of being, this 1 seed that we see here, but they've also shown the potential of losing to a team that they should have beaten pretty easily.
Yeah, they play to the level of their opponents.
And the thing I think we see with a lot of the top teams, you look at the top 2 seeds in each region. You have Virginia and Cincinnati. What do they have in common? They're juniors and seniors and tough defense.
Their defense are elite.
You have Villanova and Purdue. What do you have there? You have juniors and seniors, like upperclassmen, and Purdue might not necessarily be the same kind of defense, but they have a guy who is a matchup nightmare for every single school, because the guy's 7'2". You don't see many 7'2" centers in college basketball nowadays. in Villanova, I think is probably out of the top seeds, they might be the most well-rounded. They have players at every position that can do something. They have a good offense, good defense. They're probably the most balanced team in the field in my eyes. And Michael Bridges is a lottery pick. So they have somebody who can break open a game. So you have a few, which that's kind of the beauty of this year in college basketball is there really could be a lower seed making it to the Final Four and you not be kind of surprised. Like, I don't think any of us would be surprised with how the year started out if a team like OU, who's just struggled their last 15 games, and people were saying shouldn't even be in the tournament, and the only reason they got in was because of Trae Young. If Trae Young has a Steph Curry type tournament where he's just lighting it up, hitting the 30-footers, averaging the 28 and 12, they can run through teams just because you don't. College basketball's like that, where if one player is just lights out, that's 3 wins in a tournament. So you can see teams like an OU, and you can see teams like a Providence or even a South Dakota State, Butler, like these double-digit teams. Arizona State's in one of the play-in games, and if they win the play-in game, they're the 11 seed playing TCU. They started the year off on fire, and they were a top 15 team in the country for a time, and they just fizzled out. So that's kind of how the year has gone, where teams have gotten hot, they've swooned, they've gotten bad, and the teams that you see at the top, their swoon only lasted a couple games, and then they got hot again.
Yeah, you got a lot of teams that are peaking at the right time right now.
So, on to Andrew's Cinderella.
Mine that I came up with, I got UCLA making it to the Sweet 16.
All right, so UCLA.
I got them winning tonight, the playing game against St. What the hell is that?
St. Bonaventure.
Yeah,
the
man.
Bonnies.
St. Bonaventure what?
What you said.
So yeah, I got UCLA beating them tonight, and then coming up and beating Florida, and then to have Texas Tech beating SF Austin, then UCLA taking that, making it to the Sweet 16, but then losing to Purdue,
which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
My Cinderella is New Mexico State, because out of all the teams that we've brought up here that are double-digit seeds, I actually think that New Mexico State has the easiest route. They play Clemson at first, and it's a typical 12-5 seed where there's been four times in the last 30 years where a 12-5 there wasn't an upset. So you're guaranteed one 12-5 upset. Well, you're almost guaranteed that upset. New Mexico State has a guy named Zach Lofton. He's a senior point guard, averaging 20 a game. They have a junior, Jamario Moon, old NBA player, Jamario Jones, who's averaging 13 rebounds a game. They're a top 15 defense, so they can lock it down. Clemson, by the numbers, has a better defense, but I still kind of think that when you have a player that, like Zach Lofton, can light it up, can get hot and score, and he can shoot the ball well, a defense might not be able to necessarily stop that.
That's why I like Loyola this year, because they're in the top 5 percentile on defense also.
Yeah, so you have all those factors, and then if they beat the 5 seed Clemson, which I have, then they either play College of Charleston, who's the 13 seed, or Auburn, who was the regular season SEC champ, I believe. Mm-hmm. But they have kind of fizzled out towards the end of the season, and they rely so heavily from what I watched this season on Bruce Brown to score, that coming up against a team like New Mexico State, who they would have never seen before, with this kind of defense, I see New Mexico State being able to take Auburn. But I do have them falling to Kansas because this is looking at that Midwest region. I think this is one of the years where Kansas they might eke their way into an Elite Eight,
which they should.
I mean, they're a 1 seed, so they should make the Final Four. But I see the Kansas beating New Mexico State, ending that Cinderella run. So we do have a few Cinderellas. One team that I do want to mention is South Dakota State. They play Ohio State in the first round, another 12-5 matchup. Ohio State has been a really good team all year. They lost 3 games to Penn State. And I believe they lost like 6 games the entire season or something like that. So they lost a bunch of games. They lost all 3 to one team. They definitely have the ability to make a deep run. But I'm a believer in Mike Daum. He's a 6'9", 6'10" power forward who can stretch out and shoot NBA range threes. He's kind of like what Greg McDermott was for Creighton, that power forward stretch 4 guy that will rebound and scores 25 a game. I think Daum is actually averaging 23 and 12 over the season. So there's the ability to see a lot of lower seeds upset teams. I, like you, Alvin, have Loyola Chicago beating Miami.
Yep.
I also have UT beating Nevada. The South Dakota State. I have Providence beating A&M. I have Arizona State beating TCU. And I have Marshall actually beating Wichita State. I think the D'Antoni brothers have magic going on this season.
I think it's Charleston and Marshall playing against each other, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Charleston is in a different region. You would have Charleston and New Mexico State playing against each other.
Yeah.
You would have Murray State and Marshall playing against each other in the 12-13.
And that's where I got Murray State beating Marshall.
So
just because Murray State plays defense.
And then you have a team like Butler, who's a 10 seed, but they've won a tournament game each of the last 3 seasons. So I have them beating Arkansas. So I have a few double-digit upsets. And
but can you really call them upsets this year?
Yeah, because they're double-digit seeds.
Yeah.
But as we've brought up, it is kind of a wacky year where you can see a lower seed making the Final Four and not really be surprised. And moving on from the Cinderellas, I want to talk about a Cinderella as far as a player. I want to see who y'all are watching out for, who might have a monster tournament, take his team to Elite Eight, Final Four, at least somebody who isn't on the national landscape, like a DeAndre Ayton, a Marvin Bagley, a Michael Porter. I want to see who y'all have that you might not have seen play this year, but somebody who they should definitely watch out for come tournament time. Well, come Thursday. Andrew, I'll let you lead off.
It's not so much that he hasn't been in the spotlight. He has, but he did fizzle out once. He came down to earth. I got Trae Young. I was like, we talked about it earlier. He could. Everyone's been making the Steph Curry comparisons, of course, and
the LeBron James saying that he should be in the NBA.
Yeah, so I mean, he did come down to earth, but I feel like this is the tournament. This is where you shine. So I expect big things from him. I don't see him. This is where it kind of contradicts my little homer pick that I got, but who knows? He could prove me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they played Rhode Island first. So he can definitely lead them through Rhode Island. Rhode Island has been a very tough team this season, and they're probably only a 7 seed because they lost to Marshall in their conference tournament. So they could have easily been a 5 or 6 seed because they had definitely a very good year. And then the winner of that gets to play the winner of Duke Iona, also known as Duke. Trae Young gets hot. That Duke defense is susceptible to giving up threes. And then they would go up against either Michigan State, Bucknell, TCU, Arizona State, or Syracuse. And Michigan State might be the only team that would give him the biggest fits because Izzo's no joke on defense. And I can't think of their point guard's name right now, but their point guard is a pretty good defender. And they have Michigan State definitely has a very solid team that would be able to take Trae Young out of the game. But all season, he's been one of the guys to watch because he can light it up. It wouldn't surprise me, he gets hot and he bombs them from 30 feet. He gets 5 or 6 to go down, and all of a sudden he put up 42 on Duke, and there they go on to the Sweet 16. Alvin, your player to watch.
My player to watch, of course, New Mexico, they got Lofton and I forgot the...
Jones.
Yeah, Jones. But I'm looking at Murray State just because they got like a trio of players that could ball, but who I'm keeping an eye on is their freshman point guard, John Morant. He's averaging pretty much 13, 7, and 7 as a freshman. And if he could not have any like freshman like jitters in the tournament, I think he's going to be like the main reason why Murray State goes on to other rounds. I think he's like their catalyst because they got a guy that averages 22 points, another undersized guy that averages about 15 and 8, and they could defend real well. So I'm just keeping an eye on that freshman because if he plays well in the tournament, he just might be like putting himself in the draft because people will be talking about him.
Yeah, the Murray State team the Murray State program really has been an interesting mid-major to watch over the last 10 years. They I believe that's the Murray State had a decent run in the tournament a few years ago, and I'm trying to find who they had.
Oh, and just a little tidbit: they ended their season on a 13-game win streak.
It's all right.
Yeah,
It's a little something out there.
I did see that. I did see that they are on a win streak. The only problem is that they're going up against my player to watch, who is from West Virginia, and that's Javon Carter, who is the best defensive point guard in the country. He's a fifth-year senior. He's already bald. He's not even a shaved head. He's just bald. All of the hair on his head went to his beard. He is averaging a little less than 17 a game. He's averaging a little less than 5 rebounds for a point guard. He's averaging a little less than 7. So he's averaging 17, 5, and 7. Plus he's averaging about 3 steals a game. West Virginia presses the entire game. They don't give you any room to breathe. You have to be crisp with ball movement. You said there's a young point guard, which is just murder for West Virginia. They love playing young point guards. So West Virginia, I have making a pretty deep run because what all three of us have kind of talked about is with this tournament. You have a bunch of teams that I think we have teams advancing solely because they're a good defense. Because there's been a lot of times this season up and down offensive play, but the one thing that has been consistent with a lot of these teams has been their defense. So that's why I have West Virginia and Javon Carter in that team making a pretty lengthy run into March and possibly April. Javon Carter, unfortunately to me, isn't going to be shown on an NBA court. I don't know if he necessarily has the size and the game to make it on an NBA team. He's kind of like a Patrick Beverly, but I think he's a little shorter than Patrick Beverly. And with how deep the point guard position is in the NBA right now.
Well, as long as you could play defense, you're always going to have a spot on the NBA squad.
So he could definitely be a good backup point guard, Corey Joseph, kind of backup point guard to have. And but I think he's going to have a really good tournament, and people better watch out for this Mountain Air squad. So let's get our Final Fours going now. So we have our Cinderella, we have our player to watch. Now let's get on to who we see advancing and coming here to San Antonio and hopefully putting on a nice little show. Andrew, we'll start with you. Who's your Final Four?
My Final Four.
I don't want to see any chalk. No chalk. No number one seeds all the way through.
Well, you got one number seed going all the way through. I got Virginia in the Final Four. I got them going up against Gonzaga.
All right, so we have Virginia and Gonzaga on one.
And then the other side, I've got Coach K, man. I just can't go against Coach K.
I can.
I got Duke.
We know you can.
I got Duke making it to the Final Four against Boilermakers. Purdue.
All right, so Purdue, Duke, Virginia, Gonzaga. Alvin, we'll go to your Final Four, and then we'll bring it around for the champion.
We'll say it all at once.
1, 2, 3.
Actually, made a switch up on my Final Four because you kind of like sweet talked me into New Mexico State right now. So,
dude, you don't want to admit that on air.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I just
bitch move.
It's not bitch move because it's not submitted yet.
He doesn't trust Kansas, so he's gonna have New Mexico State.
No, I actually didn't have. I have Virginia and Gonzaga, just like boy Drew over here. But then I got Purdue and New Mexico State. At first, it was Purdue and Duke, but.
Interesting.
That was because I was thinking of like Bagley, like his star power was going to like carry Duke and everything like that. But
yeah,
even there's games even when he does go off, they still lose.
Yeah.
So and I like teams this year. I like teams that could play defense. And and pretty much they got solid offense as well. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't think of the lowest seed to make the Final Four. I want to say it's a 10 seed. I know 10 seed has made the Final Four because that's what VCU was when they made the Final Four like 8 years ago.
Oh yeah, when they had that crazy run, yeah.
Yeah, but a 12 seed making the Final Four, I want to say, is unprecedented. I don't have anything that crazy. I do have no number one seeds, so I have Cincinnati. I actually have Virginia losing to Arizona in the Sweet 16. As good as Virginia has been, and as good as they've been the last 10 seasons under Tony Bennett, as good as their defense is, they're just not going to have an answer for Aiden. He's. I wasn't
like them because
like
their defense.
3 months ago.
I like Tony Bennett because he sings good.
Yeah, I like that duet album with Lady Gaga.
Yeah, man.
But like 3 months ago, I wasn't necessarily sold on DeAndre Ayton as being the best player in college basketball and a top 2 pick because you still have Doncic from overseas that we don't get to watch stateside. But he's unbelievable. He's like what Joel Embiid is in the NBA right now. He can step out, he can shoot threes, he can handle the ball, he can pass, he can post up, he can talk shit, he can get paid.
Put it on Twitter.
So I just don't know if Virginia's going to have an answer for him. And, Arizona was, I believe, the preseason number 1. They were. It was them or Michigan State that was the preseason number 1.
It could be Arizona.
But Arizona was picked to go a long ways, and if it wasn't for a little, what I was saying earlier, one of those swoons that a lot of college teams have had this season, they're probably underranked because they were the Pac-12 regular season winner and the Pac-12 tournament winner, and they're a 4 seed. So they should probably be a 2 or a 3 seed, but they're coming up against Virginia in the Sweet 16. But I do have them losing to Cincinnati because unlike Virginia, I think that Cincinnati has a big man who can handle, for the most part, Ayton, as well as some other pieces. I have North Carolina making the Final Four, beating Gonzaga in the Elite Eight.
I didn't want to be a homer this year, so I didn't put them in the final.
That's a first.
I really tried to think this through, and looking at their bracket, I don't know if Michigan is going to be able to make the run and sustain this streak that they're on. I want to say that they can.
Well, I got North Carolina beating Michigan.
But Michigan is their toughest test up until they play either Xavier or Gonzaga. And I don't think this year Gonzaga has the firepower that they did last year. They don't have Zach Collins anymore. They don't have Nigel Goss, Williams Goss, or their senior point guard from last year. They don't have the same team that they do last year. They still have a good team, but it's not the same. And North Carolina still has Joel Berry. They still have a good defense. They have, I think, Charles Johnson is the small forward, stretch 4 for them. They have Luke May, who can dominate the glass. He's their double-double machine. I just see them kind of having an easier path to the Final Four than some other 2 seeds. On the other side, I have Javon Carter and West Virginia making it to the Final Four. I actually have Villanova I think they're my only 1 seed that goes out earlier than the Sweet 16. I only have Villanova winning their first game. I have them losing to Alabama just because I think Alabama has been playing really well as of late. And I'm a big believer in Colin Sexton as a point guard. And if they get Dante Hall back from concussion, he's another guy that can be thrown at a guy like Michael Bridges. But I have Javon Carter, Bob Huggins, and the West Virginia Mountaineers going to the Final Four and facing Michigan State. Michigan State, my last Final Four team. I have them beating Duke and beating Kansas in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. As much as I want to see Duke make a deep run because Marvin Bagley is like my favorite college basketball player, Miles Bridges is slightly ahead of him on favorite college basketball players.
It's not Allen.
Not Allen? Not Grayson Allen?
Grayson Allen?
No. Fuck Grayson Allen. I hate Grayson Allen.
Let me trip you with my butt.
Let me trip you with my butt.
We were watching that Duke UNC game that I picked Marvin Bagley to go off, and Grayson Allen made a play, and he did some antic off the court, joking around, And April was like, who's that player? Like, I like that player. And I was like, that's Grayson Allen. And he's like the most hated college basketball player in the country because he trips people. And then we're at dinner and the Duke game's on. And I'm like looking at it and I'm like, oh, Jesus, what did he do this time? And then they show the replay, and I turned to April, and I'm like, this is why people don't like him.
I like him, man. It's competitive play.
But I think
Play on.
not only do they have Miles Bridges, but they have Jerron Jackson and the point guard whose name has slipped my mind. And they have Thomas Izzo. They have a defense. Duke doesn't necessarily have a defense.
Michigan State always have a defense.
And so that's why I have Michigan State making a Final Four run. Because I think overall they're better than Kansas. And talent-wise, they're on the same plane as Duke. But I think that they have a little more balance than Duke does. So my Final Four, Cincinnati against North Carolina and West Virginia against Michigan State. So I have two number 2s, a number 3 and a number 5 in my Final Four. Now, let's get on to who's winning it all.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Virginia.
Well, Alvin said his. He's got Virginia.
Sucker.
I thought we was all saying we got 3.
I got Gonzaga beating Purdue.
You have Gonzaga winning it all.
Gonzaga.
I guess they've been due for a long time because they've been that like mid-major that's
But they
been
always-
like a Cinderella for so long.
They always
and
go
then
up against North Carolina, though.
and then they do. And then they made the championship game last year for the first time, and they went up against North Carolina. And when the season started, and even like 2 months ago, I couldn't tell you who won the national championship game last year. I completely forgot that Carolina won a game and that there was a championship, because the last time I remember a college basketball champion, it was Villanova on the last second 3 being made.
Oh, I hate that game.
Like that's the last champion I remember seeing. I completely forgot that Carolina went to back-to-back championships, and they won the last one. But I have Cincinnati, and here are my reasons for Cincinnati, because they've been one of the best teams in the country all year. They're one of the only teams that have no bad losses. They have 0 bad losses on their resume. They have the number 2 ranked defense behind Virginia. They create, I believe they're a top 10 team in turnovers. So they cause turnovers. And as I said earlier about Cincinnati having a guy who can maybe handle DeAndre Ayton, they have Gary Clark. They really have a balanced lineup, but Gary Clark's their big man. He's averaging 13 and 8. And that might not sound like a lot, but when you're limiting possessions and you're playing a slower pace and you know your games are 55 points.
Yep.
13's a lot of points. And so I think it's their year. I just feel like a team like Cincinnati, like all 4 of the teams that I have in my Final Four, they're defensive stalwarts. Carolina might be the only one that's not necessarily a top rated defense, but with how crazy this season has been, I think it's going to go to a team that nobody's expecting, even though they're a 2 seed, but they're in the same bracket as Virginia, who y'all both have advancing, Arizona, who a lot of people have advancing. They even have Kentucky in their bracket. And a team that I feel like hasn't really been talked about at all is Tennessee, who's a 3 seed, who's also one of those teams that have one of the most effective defenses in the country.
The only thing about Tennessee, they one of their star players is hurt for the tournament, I think. So I think that's what holds them back. I don't think they'll have enough offense firepower to.
Yeah, but there's Cincinnati, I think, coming out of the South region, which I think is the toughest region. I see them moving on and beating West Virginia in the national championship game. I think West Virginia has just I feel like it's their year to get a little further than they have in years past.
Well, that's why I like Virginia. I mean, they hold opponents to 53 points a game. I think they're the only team in the tournament that's 6-0 against top 25 ranked teams. They only lost two games all year, and one of them was a conference game.
I mean, they play in such a bad conference, though.
I mean, when you're going against North Carolina and Duke, like when you can say that you beat North Carolina twice during the season and you beat Duke during the season, I think that says a lot. And plus, their defense, I think it's the best defense.
Well, you know who Cincinnati also beat this season? Villanova and Xavier.
They don't got the weight that North Carolina and Duke carry.
Well, you know what they also have that North Carolina and Duke don't have? Number 1 seeds.
That's fine. That's fine because their defense is actually really good. They could defend inside and outside.
You know how I said Cincinnati's the number 2 defense, Virginia's the number 1 defense.
Yeah. Like they could defend inside, outside.
They just have to go. They have to go up against DeAndre Ayton first, though.
Which will be a tough test, but I think their defense could.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's just there's a lot of teams that I would not be surprised that win it all.
And I like Virginia because they could play defense, and they also could shoot the 3. And I feel like in college basketball to get past the tournament, if you're not going to hit threes, like you're not going to win the game.
Yeah, the thing about West Virginia that I think it just is the beauty of college basketball is each team plays such a unique style. That's why Syracuse had been so successful for so long. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't think Syracuse should be even playing this play-in game. But their 2-3 zone, like they play their 2-3 zones a lot different than most other schools' 2-3 zones. They play it a different way. And you always hear college basketball analysts talk about the Syracuse 2-3 zone. And you have so little time to prepare for it that if you're not on the ball ready to face that zone, it's going to cause problems. And that's what I think West Virginia is going to have the luxury of this tournament is teams aren't going to be prepared for that style of basketball. Teams aren't going to be prepared to have to run a press break offense for 40 minutes. Teams aren't going to be prepared for the type of pressure Javon Carter puts on them and the type of shot blocker that Issa Ahmed is. And same thing, with the Michigan States. Virginia, even, I believe, Virginia is one of the few teams that can successfully switch from 2-3 to man-to-man on defense. And Cincinnati has such a balanced attack, and they have such a good defense that this is really going to be a defensive struggle tournament. So you're going to look at teams. It's going to be like the first team to 60 probably wins the game.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire tournament. Just at first glance, the one game that pops out in my mind that I see probably being a high scoring game is I have Xavier and Missouri playing in the second round. And I just see that being like a 75-70 type game. But other than that, I see a lot of defensive struggles. And, to me, it's exciting basketball because I love college basketball. So I don't care if I watch a 52-48 game. I know a lot of people want to see guys like Trae Young just explode for 35 points. But I also like seeing guys like I think it's Jari Evans from Texas Tech. I like seeing a guy from Texas Tech just say, you know what, I'm going to hold you to 1 for 11 from 3, and you're going to score 15 points in this game. So it'll be fun to watch, and like I said, I want to go to at least one of the Final Four games. I want to go and actually get to experience it, because the last time the Final Four was here, I was really too young to really know what was going on. And I actually think that the year that it was here, Kentucky won it all with Tubby Smith. Arizona was in the Final Four with Mike Bibby.
Dang, that's way back.
UMass was in it with Marcus Camby and John Calipari coaching it. And I can't think of the other team. I want to say it was like UCLA. It seemed like it was all blue bloods. But I was just I don't even remember who was in it, and I don't necessarily remember who won it. I think it was Kentucky, but I have no idea. I'm actually gonna look that up. That while I do that kind of ends our little breakdown of the tournament, unless there is a little extra tidbits that y'all want to throw in on the tournament, another player, another team to watch out for. But
nah, I've got nothing.
I think we
I think we touched pretty much all bases on that, especially like people to look out for. I mean, we already went through the Cinderellas. I think those are the teams that people should really keep an eye on, those games.
So going from that, it just leads us into our Fire, Dire, and Prophecies. And we can go into a little more depth on a couple of these. So, Alvin, I'll let you start off. Who was on fire?
My fire is the NFL. And there's a couple of them. I think the Browns. They picked up a quarterback finally that could play without a O-line. They got Jarvis Landry from Miami to go with Josh Gordon. And then you got the Rams just picking up monster pieces on the defensive end.
Yes.
And then, of course, today, Kirk Cousins, a full guaranteed contract. What is it, $84 million or something like that?
30 years, 84 with Minnesota.
Completely guaranteed, like
that.
That's what he's saying in Washington, laughing to the bank.
So, real quick, like I said, I was looking this up. Final Four was 1998. It was North Carolina, Utah, Kentucky, and Stanford. Utah beat North Carolina, and Kentucky beat Stanford.
Was that the Stanford with Josh Childress?
This is the Stanford. It's the Carolina with Vince Carter and Antoine Jameson.
Dang.
It looks like Andre Miller.
Damn.
Yeah, Andre Miller was on that Utah team. And Kentucky won it all. Michael Doliak was also on that Utah team. And they beat Antoine Jameson and Vince Carter by 6.
So sad.
And Kentucky had Jeffrey Shepard, who I couldn't tell you what he did in the NBA. I really couldn't. I don't. Let's see who was also on that champion. Nazir Muhammad.
On the Kentucky team, right?
Yeah. Scott Padgett, Jamal McClure, Allen Edwards, who didn't do anything in the NBA.
Dang, the only one was like Nazir Muhammad.
Scott Padgett had a pretty long NBA career. And Jamal McGlure was an all-star center when he played for the Charlotte Hornets he was with the Charlotte Hornets. He also played with the Heat. He had a decent career. Yeah, he was an NBA All-Star in 2004 when he was playing with the Charlotte Hornets. But then after that, he just started bouncing around teams. So yeah, that was the Final Four, the last Final Four we saw in San Antonio. A guy named Jeffrey Shepard was the leading scorer and like the most outstanding player.
Never heard of again.
Right. But yeah, Arizona was the number 1 seed in that tournament, and that was the run of tournaments or run of teams for Lute Olson that had some pretty awesome players. They had where the hell is it?
Lol.
Yeah, I couldn't. It didn't pop up the way I wanted it to.
Boop,
sorry, guys.
boop, boop, boop,
Sorry.
boop, boop.
There we go.
Oh yeah, with these Browns move, I think it sets them up to pick on Saquon Barkley. Finally have a legit running back.
Yeah, definitely.
They don't have to go for a quarterback in the first round.
Let's get off of NCAA. Sorry. So, to piggyback on your fire, I do have the Browns, just the Browns, because there are some NFL teams that I don't know what they're doing. I honestly think the Minnesota Vikings made a terrible decision signing Kirk Cousins to that contract when they could have kept Case Keenum for what the Broncos had.
Yep, that's why I just said Cousins. I did not say the Vikings.
But the Browns, I thought they should go after signing Kirk Cousins because they did I thought they should try to find their quarterback externally instead of trying to use one of those top picks on a quarterback. One, because that would mean they have to develop that quarterback because very few quarterbacks come into the league and they're just ready to go. And those teams that are successful with rookie quarterbacks usually had a team in place. They just had to deal with like injuries or they traded for the pick and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So you see a guy like Joe Flacco, his rookie season taking the Ravens to the playoffs. He had a good defense.
Russell Wilson.
They had Ray Rice was still relevant and still a top back in the league. Russell Wilson definitely with the Seahawks defense. Matt Ryan is one of the few that I don't think necessarily came into an outstanding situation, but still led the Falcons to the playoffs. Andrew Luck led the Colts. RG3 led the Redskins. So there are some instances, but I don't see any of these quarterbacks being Andrew Luck type good or RG3 type good.
Are we sure Andrew Luck's good?
He was before his arm went dead.
He hasn't played in like 2 years.
2 years. He went missing last year.
I think he looked. He got back up to the practice facility and looked at his offensive line, and then looked at Chuck Pagano and. My arm went limp.
Oh no!
Like, man, stem cells. Let's do it.
But they also traded for Jarvis Landry, so that gives them a good receiver with Corey Coleman. Why can't I think? I can't think of their tight end. They have a good tight end.
Joku.
Yeah, the rookie, but I thought they had another tight end that was hurt.
They had traded him as soon as they drafted Joku.
This also allows them, one, to draft Saquon Barkley, who you brought up, but also to draft Minkah Fitzpatrick and shore up their secondary. They just got rid of Joe Hayden. It helped their defense out a little bit. They can also draft an offensive lineman. There's a possibility that they'll be able to draft Quentin Nelson out of Notre Dame, who's an offensive guard, and like Mel Kiper and Todd McShay and all the NFL guys are saying that he is the top rated guard like of all time. He's the highest rated guard of all time. That's how good this guy is. In that it's been like 30 years since a guard has been the first lineman taken in an NFL draft. Because you normally see tackles drafted that they will just put into guard. You don't ever see an interior lineman drafted first out of all the linemen.
That's what I want. That's what I want to see from the Browns. I want to see them pick Barkley, and then spend a couple picks on their old line.
Yeah. So and Joe Thomas still is, I guess, rehabbing his injury and contemplating retirement. And if he comes back, then that helps out tremendously too. That's like signing a free agent, because if he doesn't come back, then it can change everything. But the Browns are my fire because it looks like they're like John Dorsey came in from the Chiefs and was like, look, this is what we were doing with the Chiefs. This is what helped build that team up to this level that it's been at, where they're constantly contending for a division. Technical difficulties.
The mic just put what it got on the table.
It is a black mic, right?
That just made me lose my train of thought. The mic just was like, enough with the Browns. So I just think, the Browns and John Dorsey, I think they're finally understanding how to build a team. Because I don't know how many times I've said it on this podcast, you don't need to use your top pick on a quarterback, because you can get a quarterback in the 3rd round, in the 6th round, in the 5th round. You can get guys. Case Keenum, undrafted. Kirk Cousins, 3rd round. Tom Brady, 6th round.
Russell Wilson, 3rd round.
Dak Prescott, 3rd round. Like, you can get... They might not be, all-time greats. They might not be, like, just top quarterbacks in the league. They're not going to be your Aaron Rodgers and your Tom Brady, even though I just said Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Different era, different time. But you also get a guy on a rookie contract that you can build around. And if you build around a quarterback, you can make him look good. The Bills just made the playoffs for the first time in 20 years with Tyrod Taylor, and they didn't want anything to do with him for whatever reason.
For 2 years, they didn't want anything to do with him.
And now he's going to a team that hasn't done much in its franchise history. The last time they won a championship was before the Super Bowl was called the Super Bowl, and Jim Brown played for him. Since then, it's just been a generation of
horrible management, drafting.
Yeah, they're like the Detroit Lions. Just years of suck.
A whole bunch of suck.
And that's why they're on my fire line. Andrew, let's get to your fire.
My fire pick, I'm going Team Petty.
Ugh.
I got Richard Sherman.
Ultimate.
He represented himself, and he said, you know what, y'all are going to release me and come up with all this. I'm going to the Niners. I see y'all 2 times this year.
Yeah.
Technically going to his home.
Yeah.
From what I saw, I didn't see contract details. I did see a lot of talk about the contract, and Richard Sherman pretty much just said, like you said, fuck it. I'm going to the Niners at all costs, just so I can play y'all twice. I went to Stanford. I'm from that area. This is like hometown team to me. I'll take a discount, because I saw one article was like titled, I think it was on The Ringer, it was like, here are the 5 ways that Richard Sherman blew his deal. And complaining about how bad his actual contract was while he represented himself. But I don't think he cares. He's made enough money. He's made plenty of money. All he cares about is vengeance.
He just wants to go at Pete Carroll.
I actually think that his quote is, "I'm vengeful like that."
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going Team Petty for my hot pick or for my fire pick.
Can you just imagine Seattle going up against the 49ers? Because I don't think the Seahawks have very good receivers. They have Doug Baldwin, who has put up pretty good numbers, but like Richard Sherman is just going to say, "All right, Doug, like I've seen you in practice for 6 years, 7 years.
Exactly.
Let's see what you got."
And I don't even think Seattle will be relevant this year. They're just like unloading right now. They got rid of Bennett. They're looking to get rid of Thomas. Release Sherman.
They're doing what I feel a lot of teams wrongfully do, and they're centering around Russell Wilson. They're trying to center their pieces around Russell Wilson, and they're getting rid of the vocal
leadership.
Yeah, not necessarily. I'm not looking for the leadership word, but the detractors of Russell Wilson, the guys that come out and talk shit about Russell Wilson, like
the mutineers.
They're in Tampa Bay.
Buccaneers.
Oh,
These are mutineers.
So, yeah, I love that Richard Sherman went to the 49ers, and it's crazy to think that the best teams in that division this season are going to be the 49ers and the Rams.
Oh, the Rams are stacked right now on defense.
Yeah, and they have draft picks to shore up any offensive woes that they have. They got rid of Sammy Watkins, but I think they signed they signed a receiver today.
Oh, I did not see that, but I mean, you got Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters.
Oh, that's right. They got Aqib Talib too. Yeah, their defense is going to be the best in the league.
That's secondary.
I can almost prophesize that. I can almost say that that's definitely going to be the top defense in the league next season. It wouldn't surprise me to see the Rams in the Super Bowl at this point.
Oh yeah.
They're doing so well. So with that, let's move on to our people or teams that are in dire. Alvin, we'll start with you again.
Unfortunately, it's going to be Kawhi for me in dire. Just simply like I thought he would be able to return starting next week, but now like you just get reports that it's not the team doctors that is waiting to clear him. It's his camp, his own like personal doctors that they're waiting on for him to get cleared.
That's what it's been the entire time. Like that's what it was Pop saying when Pop said like if I'm speaking honestly, I don't think we'll see him the rest of the season. It was because his doctors and his team weren't clearing him to come back. The Spurs doctors had cleared him. He's been cleared by the Spurs doctors. So
yeah, I just feel like it's just gone wayside with him this year, and this whole injury and the whole is he clear to play? Is he not clear to play? Like I really would have thought he would have made that extra effort to be back in time to get a few games in so he could be ready for the playoffs for the Spurs, so they could get that nice push. But it's looking like that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. He's not cleared for Thursday, but I believe he's been working out and he started practicing from what I saw today.
Yeah, well, the early reports had heard that they were expecting him to be ready by Thursday, and now reports are saying that he's not.
Yeah, it was weird. The more I heard about it since Saturday night, when they were saying that Thursday was going to be the day, I had heard a bunch of people saying they need to see him on 5-on-5. They need to see him in 5-on-5 drills. And they played Houston Saturday night. They played last night. They played tonight. So where are you going to get him in 5-on-5 drills? You're not going to really see him because they're going to only hold shoot-arounds on game days. So tomorrow you can see him in a 5-on-5 drill, and Friday you can see him on a 5-on-5 drill. And because I believe they're playing right now. They play Thursday. I believe they play Saturday and Monday as well. So where are you going to actually see the evidence? Because he can't just go out and I feel like they need to make a deal to where he goes and plays with the Austin Spurs. It's not NBA talent, but it's at least like a game.
Just to get you warmed up.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's definitely a weird situation with Kawhi, and I think he'll be back soon, but it could be Monday, it could be next Friday, and the Spurs need to get hot now. They can't try to fidget and fiddle with their entire rotations coming down this brutal stretch, because they need 10 more wins to make the playoffs.
Yep.
In the last 13 games. So it's a gauntlet that they have, but while it is a tough stretch of games, they are playing other teams that are doing the same thing where they're fighting for their lives. So if the Spurs are able to go 8-5, but they beat the right teams, they lose all their games to the Warriors and the Rockets, but they're beating the Thunder and the Clippers and the Jazz and the Nuggets and all those other teams that they're playing and contending for playoff spots with, they can still sneak in. Andrew, you're in Dyer.
My Dyer pick kind of rolled along with my fire pick as far as Seattle, because that Seattle defense just
boom.
Instead of writing what it was, I just drew a little tombstone that said "R.I.P. Legion of Boom."
Yeah,
essentially,
you don't.
That's what it is.
I saw somebody tweet about it that you don't really ever see that great of defense last that long. The fact that we got 6 years of that defense is unprecedented in NFL history. You'll see a few years where it's great defense. Thinking about it, Pittsburgh and Baltimore had years and years and years of great defenses, but not that great. Year in, year out, number one defense.
Safety in the first play of the Super Bowl defense.
Yeah, that wasn't because of anything they did.
That's because they intimidated Peyton.
They intimidated the center.
They intimidated the whole team.
Oh, they knocked Wes Welker out the game.
Yeah.
that was early too.
Cam Chancellor put him on notice.
So
you never seen Wes Welker ever.
Yeah, he's still recovering.
It's kind of sad to see that the Seahawks defense is gone, but I also hated the Seahawks, so I'm kind of happy to see it's gone.
You hate anything that's great.
You hate anything with swagger.
That too.
No,
great swagger.
One of my favorite NFL players is Chad Johnson and Steve Smith Sr. Those were some of my favorite players to watch. I love T.O. I love the diva receiver.
You love one person, but if it's a team collective, you're hate them. Fuck that. The Golden State Warriors, hate them because when they get hot and they start shooting, they get all boisterous and everything like that. Fuck them.
The Patriots.
I do hate the Patriots.
Tom Brady.
Even though he's better than Peyton.
Let's not go. Let's
We've been here before.
This is an off-season rant.
I've said all I need. Well, not really all I need, because people still think Tom Brady's better than Peyton. So
Well, I mean,
I have
'cause
to
he
shout it from the
is.
rooftops. And
Especially after last night on Colbert.
did you see that he switched the cups though?
No, I didn't.
It wasn't even beer.
What do you mean it wasn't beer? What was that foam at the top?
Apple juice. Apple juice foams up.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it
What kind of
does.
apple juice do you drink?
If you shake it.
If you would have said
That
apple
doesn't.
cider,
It doesn't.
If
No,
you would have
that
said apple
wasn't.
cider, I would have like had a little.
No, even
but-
still.
No,
it doesn't foam at the top. Not even Martinelli's does that.
I actually
Shameless
didn't,
plug for Martinelli's.
no, I actually didn't look at the glasses. I saw it on Around the Horn, and they showed him switching the glasses around before they chugged it.
I don't even think he could chug beer.
Oh, he just did.
Apparently, from what the Patriots locker room has said, is he's the best beer chugger on the team.
That's
Well, I mean, he
Which
drinks
isn't-
enough after every
which-
championship, so
It doesn't surprise me.
I don't know. I would have thought that would have been Gronkowski, but all right.
I think Gronk can pound him, but I don't think he can chug him like Tom.
I think Gronk has a bottle of vodka in his hand at all times.
He's not Russian.
Maybe gin.
He might sound Russian sometimes from all the head injuries that he's had. Gronk. Vodka.
Gronk's mad.
So, going from y'all's dyers to mine, keeping it NFL, the Dolphins are my dyer because they're doing exactly what the Seahawks are doing.
Just unloading.
It's just, we're changing the culture, guys. We're changing the culture.
Again.
I feel sorry for Miami fans. Like,
Do they even have fans?
yes, they do. His name is Poppy Lebitard.
Yeah. The Levitards.
But you have Jeter coming in and shipping off all of their talent.
Yeah.
You have so the Marlins are no good. The Dolphins are just saying, yeah, screw it. We'll do the same thing. We'll just ship everything out. We still don't know really who our quarterback is because Jay Cutler might want to play again, and Ryan Tannehill is coming back from injury.
And they got the quarterback from the Browns. The rookie quarterback.
Kaiser?
Yeah, Kaiser.
Yeah, they got Deshaun Kaiser, but it's they got rid of Landry and they're releasing Sue, and it just
Got rid of Ajayi last year.
I don't know what their plan is.
I said last year.
If their plan is to suck and get the number one, maybe there's somebody in the next year's draft that they're absolutely in love with, but who knows what they're doing.
They was really in love with Tannehill and he did nothing.
He actually played pretty well, and then he had a knee injury in the
He's been
offseason.
injury prone all
If he
year.
didn't get that knee injury, he would have been their starter, and Jay Cutler would have been announcing games. But what's past is past, and let's prophesize. Let's see what y'all got going on this week. Andrew, we'll start with you on this one.
I got the Spurs winning out the week.
I almost went with that.
All right.
We got 3 home games. We're gonna relax at home, take it easy, sleep in our own beds. We got New Orleans. We got
I swear I looked at this game like 10 minutes ago, and it was like a 4-point game, 6-point game.
Don't
and
say anything right now because I mean it's still early.
It's a 23-point game, and as long as nobody steps under another player, I think we're good on that.
It's still playing basketball. So yeah, I got we got games against New Orleans coming to Minnesota, and then the cherry on top, hosting the Golden State Warriors.
Monday, who might not have Steph.
I don't think they'll have Steph.
If I'm the Warriors, I'm just like, hey, Steph,
Sit it out
just
for the
sit it out
playoffs.
the rest of the season.
Yep.
I would hate it if Laverne
We're-
stepped under him
Man, I was thinking about it.
and then looks at Zaza like,
watching the game.
Gives a wink.
oopsies.
watching the game last night, I'm thinking to when we were doing a season preview on the Spurs back in October, and I was talking about how Joffrey Laverne was like a Boris Diaw type big because he can pass and he can handle the ball decently well and he can rebound and he seems to be in the right place at the right time. And then I watched him last night, and it was like a drunk bear running around the court.
He gets lost very easily.
I'm like, well, he's our backup big. Like you don't realize that the bigs for San Antonio are LaMarcus, Powell, and Laverne. End of list. Those are the big men.
I mean, Rudy Gay.
Yeah, Rudy Gay plays 4, and Davis Bertans is our other big. But Kyle Anderson, too.
When you go small.
Yeah.
But that's going small almost the entire game. And it is, you look at it and you're like, if Laverne is your backup big, like as good as I thought he could have been at the beginning of the season, God, he's just bad. He's not a Spurs player. He's not.
He's like Tiago Splitter when we first got him.
No, Tiago Splitter was like 4 inches taller and could pass the ball better.
Yeah, but Tiago did have his moments where you're just
he was like goofy. He
definitely didn't know where he was going, but he could pass the ball, he could rebound better, and he was taller.
And that's exactly how Laverne is. He's just
Tiago Splitter is 20 times better when we got him than what Laverne is now.
He's like the big guy in Of Mice and Men. The one with the guns.
Just look at the sunset.
That's what Pop's saying right now.
Over there at the end of the bench, just look at the sunset.
On that note, Alvin, what do you got going on this week?
I actually got the Cavs ending the week 3 and 4, and
They're playing 7 games in 1 week.
Damn, dude, that's no days off.
1 and 3.
No, because they're playing. They already beat Detroit. They beat the Nuggets, and I think.
Oh, you were already considered.
Yeah, and I believe they're going to beat the Suns tonight.
Yeah,
but I think they're going to lose the next 2 games against the Blazers in Chicago, and I think they will be ending the week at the 6 or 7 seed. Because I feel like Washington will be winning.
He started off talking about, I got praise for the Cavs, and then it's just like, no. It's a backhanded compliment. You're gonna win this one, but you're gonna suck the rest of the week.
Their issues on defense is problematic. Very.
I feel like that's like a rap album from 1997. Problematic.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the whole sentence. I was like, no, that's more of a country song.
Issues on defense are problematic.
Yeah, that is a country song title right there.
I don't even think country would even use the word problematic.
No, definitely not.
Country, the genre, is problematic. Dog died, my girl left, my truck broke down.
Honky tonk.
There's a snake in my boot.
Singing about crappy beer like Bud Light.
They don't sing about Bud Light. Nobody sings about Bud Light. They sing about Lone Star and whiskey.
Even more crappy.
They just sing about alcohol in general. There is a song by Doug Moreland called "The Beer Song."
Not surprised.
Yeah, he just lists off a bunch of beers and how much he drinks.
And I bet they're all crappy beers.
No. He has Duff beer in there and Dos Equis, Natural Light.
Ooh. Natty Light.
So I'll finish this off. My prophecy this week, I was thinking of doing the Spurs, but I have Barcelona beating Chelsea tomorrow.
I saw that.
Advancing in the Champions League. Their aggregate 1-1. I can't remember who played on the road because the road goals count as a tie break. So I think Barca just wins outright.
Messi.
Hopefully Messi can put up a couple goals and they can move on and kind of right the ship because they haven't. I don't think they've been very good in the Champions League the last couple years. And Real Madrid has just been smoking teams. So Barca has to right the ship. But that's my prophecy. I kept it short and sweet because we talked a whole lot about college basketball this week. Tad bit about football. Tad bit about NBA. So finish it on some soccer. And go Spurs go. And let's hope Kawhi comes back. And they make that little playoff push that they need to make. And tournament starts Thursday, so come this time next week, we'll have a weekend of games in the books. And I believe
how jacked up our bracket's going to be.
I'm going undefeated this year.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
all right.
Good luck with that. I'll put a bet against that one.
If I do, it'd be sweet. It's not going to happen.
It'd be pretty awesome.
I don't even know what I'd do if I picked a perfect bracket. Like, how do you?
This would be Casey. Oh, I won. Oh.
He's going to tweet it to us.
Hey guys, here's my bracket.
Look what happened.
He's going to add us.
I did a thing.
Wouldn't you know? All right.
I thought I was crazy.
Cincinnati winning it all. So, this has been the Benchwarmers podcast. I'm Casey Coggins with Alvin Hebert.
See y'all.
And Andrew Lara.
Later.
See y'all next week.